Hello friends, my name is Manoj Bhuptani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. How are you guys? It's been a lovely morning today. I'm sure that you guys are having a very good plan for your day, and certainly you are going to execute it in the best possible manner that you can. So are you guys revising your topics time and again? Because that's an important prerequisite in order to clear your CE final examinations. So don't miss out on that. So guys, in our last presentation, I did discuss with you a topic relating to management and operational audit. In that particular presentation, I covered a few of the topics relating to that. In this particular presentation, I'll be discussing with you all the questions which have been asked in the previous CE final examinations with relation to management audit. So therein, you'll be getting an idea as to what kind of questions institute usually asks you up and what kind of responses and answers they expect out of you. So are you guys all set? Perfect. Fasten up your seat belts. We are about to take off with the first thing. So guys, this question was asked in CE final examination for November 1998 and May 2004. The question was, what are the kind of difficulties which are being encountered in the course of management audit? So we have seen many of the times that in any kind of audit, be it financial audit, be it internal audit, be it management audit or operational audit, we have seen one thing, that auditors usually face some kind of problems during a particular audit. So what are the basic difficulties which are being encountered by an auditor during management audit? This question will help you up in solving that kind of grievance or that. So what are some of the behavior problems which are being encountered during a management audit? First of all, that is resistance to change. This is one of the biggest problem that we as auditor face. And that's not just the case with us. Be it government offices, be it any of the offices. People are resistant to change. They don't want to change their lifestyle. They don't want to change their kind of working environment. They don't want to change any of the good kind of technological advancement which has come pretty soon in the technological world. So people are resistant and we know that. So this is one such thing which is actually creating conflicts for we as auditors during any of the management audit, be it internal, be it financial, be it management audit, any of the audit. So people working in a particular kind of organization are amenable to change, but at the time of actual implementation, they come up with some stiff kind of resistance towards proposal. So that is one such problem which we face. Next is the expertise of auditor. By expertise, I simply mean when a management or operational auditor basically performs the comprehensive audit of functions, they cannot be well informed about such operations. Why? Because we as auditors are being deployed for the purpose of auditing, but they as management, as TCWG, as the employees of that organization, are definitely having a much broader and fair idea about that organization as compared to our knowledge. So in that case, any of the suggestions which we as auditor make to them, they are either not accepted by them, or if in case we forcibly try to implement our ideas at them, then attempts like this are likely to be made as a major failure in any of the scenarios. So the expertise of auditor is usually not welcomed in such case of scenarios because people are resistant towards change and they don't have this kind of idea that auditor can seriously help them up in any of the situations. So that is again a behavioral kind of problem which is being encountered during a management audit. Next thing comes in as the line staff conflict. By line staff relationship has a very inherent kind of conflicting tendency. Management auditors, being specialists in their field, may think that their approach and solutions are the only answers, but that's not the case, guys. They must pinpoint all the defects to prove themselves to the top management. Line personnel under such circumstances will look at the staff personnel with the kind of antagonism. So that's absolutely a kind of problem again. So we must not think that our approaches, our solutions are the only answers. We need to encourage their recommendations as well, because That's an imperative thing which is likely to be required in any of the management audit. So line staff conflict is again a behavioral problem. Next comes in the insensitive audit practices. Reports that are overly critical or which focuses on deficiencies only. The air of mystery cloaking some of the audits, and the perception that auditors gain personally from reporting deficiencies. All these reasons contribute to a very kind of cold war between auditor and auditee. Auditee usually think that we tend to have this kind of feeling that we are generally happy with a kind of at a very personal kind of a level by reporting their deficiencies, but that's not the case. It has to be told to them, and it has to be like very much verbally and encouragingly. Auditor need to discuss all these things with the auditee, that whatever kind of report, whatever kind of deficiencies that they are reporting in their reports are for the benefit of the management and company itself. So they are not doing it for some personal kind of a sake, wherein they are just encouraging some of the deficiencies or kind of a problems or obstacles that are being faced by the management. So we as auditor are seriously involved in these kind of tasks, and we want some kind of improvement that needs to be happen in those areas. So an auditor should not indulge himself or herself in some kind of insensitive audit practices. So we need to take care of each and every concern of management also, and accordingly the employees as well. So that is again a behavioral problem which needs to be overcome once you start out with any of the management audit. Next comes in the hostile nature of audit style. So a hostile and aggressive kind of audit style basically creates some kind of gap between the auditor and auditee. For example, the lack of understanding of the auditee's problems, absence of empathy, air of smugness, superiority, excess concentration on kind of insignificant errors, prosecutional kind of tone when asking about questions. So these are some of the things which actually reflect your hostile nature, your aggressiveness. So that shouldn't be the case. It has to be taken care of that whenever you go for any kind of audit, you need to be confident enough, and you need to be very much satisfied with the thing that you are talking very with humbleness, complete humbleness with the auditee. He needs to ensure that you are actually working with them for them. So you are not supposed and appointed to basically discourage them or talk to them or interact with them in an aggressive kind of tone. So it has to be taken care of that audit should be performed in a very down to earth and a humble kind of manner, wherein you can politely put forward your recommendations and observations to them. You need not to be hostile or aggressive any of the time accordingly. So that's again a behavioral kind of problem. Next comes in the non-supportive perception of auditee. This is a very kind of general image that the management auditor is a very critic kind of a person. He's a fault finder or a kind of private spying authority on the top management. But believe me, that's not the case. That is something that you need to get the auditee in that kind of a comfort zone. You need to first build some kind of positive approach and image in front of them in order to change their perception towards audit. We as auditors are not critic. We are not fault finders. We are not private spy. We just want that the company for which we are actually auditing should grow, and there should be some kind of improvement in their management audit. So that's our purpose for that, and we need to amend our image in front of their eyes. So that's again a behavioral problem which is encountered during a management audit. And finally comes that control aspect. So people are generally reluctant to accept any of the external control mechanisms like management audit. This arises due to many of the factors like fear of criticism stemming from adverse audit findings. Again, fear of changes in day-to-day working habits due to changes relating in audit recommendations, and the kind of punitive action by the superiors prompted by reported deficiencies. So technically all these aspects need to be covered up very in a very positive and a great kind of a manner by an auditor. He needs to ensure that these control aspects and these fears which are in the mind of employees, management, for the fear of criticism, fear of changes, punishment, all these things should be like set aside once and for all once you start your audit. So these things need to be taken care of well before you start out and mark the beginning or inception of your audit. So all these things need to be cleared out during that moment itself, and build that kind of comfort zone with the auditee, wherein auditee can expressively provide his or her suggestions or observations to you as management auditor as well. Bring that kind of great camaraderie between the two. But having said that, you need to know that you are basically working as an auditor. So don't dwell into any of the things which are just not professional or unethical for you and your profession. But a great kind of camaraderie is always welcome in order to ensure that you get your results in a positive manner. The last one will be the effect of audit recommendation. There is an inherent kind of fear in executives, employees that management auditors' recommendations may lead to their removal from the office or reshuffling. So again, this needs to be taken care of. This is again a behavioral problem, because that's the only reason as to why people and employees basically who are working for that company or executives don't usually provide you the suggestions, or don't usually provide you the real picture of the story. Why? Because they fear that certainly the management auditor in his recommendation will surely write against that person or employee in that case. So believe me guys, you need to ensure that once you report any of such circumstances, you don't need to pinpoint on that particular single employee. So that's absolutely not a good behavior. That's not the ethical one. You need to report about the problem and not about a person accordingly. So that things can be taken care of on the side-by-side basis, but don't provide those things in your report. So that's a direct derivation which you'll be doing to that particular individual or a group of individuals. So that's again the effect of the audit recommendation. So guys, these are the difficulties which are being encountered during the management audit. I hope you got the complete clarity with each and every aspect of the same. Resistance to change, expertise of auditor, line staff conflict, insensitive audit practices, hostile audit style, non-supportive perception of auditee, control aspect, and then finally effect of that audit recommendation. Perfect guys, let's move to our next question. So guys, this question was asked in CE final examination for May 1996, May 2004 and November 2010. XYZ, a manufacturing unit, does not accept the recommendations for improvement made by the operational auditor. Suggest an alternative way to tackle the hostile management. So guys, before beginning any of the audit, you set up some kind of stages in that manner. So you need to do your groundwork before you start out any of the audit. And first groundwork, the first homework that you need to do while you start performing any of the audit is a preliminary stage. And what's being done in that preliminary stage is the top management's role. You need to ask the top management to kindly brief their employees that about the audit which is about to get started in a few weeks time or a few months time accordingly, so that by the time you reach to the venue, those persons who are actually going to provide you the requisite information, like the employees, management people, other ones, so they don't get like shocked or surprised to see you over there. Okay, management audit is going to start up, you are not aware of it. No. So top management needs to update the same accordingly with all the employees that sooner or later management audit is going to start. So you need to set the things straight right at the first moment. So what's the top management role in it? Top management is basically going to demonstrate to the extent possible that the audit which is being done is an overall kind of a program which is mandated by higher level authority to meet the organizational needs for the protection and benefit of the organization. So they need to ensure that the management actually provides the employees the fair idea about as to why the audit is being conducted. So you need to have the reason for the same first. Next, about the objective of the review is basically to provide the maximum kind of service in all the feasible management dimensions. Then the review will be conducted with minimum interference with regular operations, because people at the executive level tend to get worried about this thing that now auditors are coming, definitely our work is going to get hampered and we won't be able to perform our best in our work, because definitely auditor is going to interfere in our day-to-day affairs. So ensure that the management is going to tell all those people this absolutely minimum interference will be there, and your regular operations with the operating personnel will definitely not get hampered during it. So that's again a top management role. Then the review of the findings. So the responsible officers will be kept fully informed and given an opportunity to review the findings and provide their recommendations before the audit report is formally released. So accordingly, these officers will get a fair idea about before putting or penning down any of your observation on the audit report, you need to first discuss with them as to what you have mentioned in your report, because that will be the best time wherein you'll be able to solve maximum of your queries as an auditor. So review of findings is a major thing, and that has to be set forth at the very practical phase, that is the stage 1, at the very initial beginning of the audit. So these are the basic roles which will be pertinent to top management's criteria. Then there would be an air of trust. That's the immensely important thing. So it is essential, guys, to create an atmosphere of trust, friendliness, so that the management audit function will be welcomed and understood in a very proper positive perspective. There should be a right management culture, enlightened auditees, and finally the auditors of right caliber. These three things are going to make any kind of audit superb and awesome. So it's extremely important to have that kind of air of trust. And finally, the conclusion of stage 1 will happen with the initial participation. So the management auditor should build up a very kind of positive approach to his audit and involve the various organizational personnel from the initial stages of audit itself. I'll tell you my personal experience on this. Whenever I used to go for an audit with my Big Four, with any of the company, for any of the company, I used to have this thing straight out in my mind, that the person whom, the kind of organization for whom I'm going to audit, I need to build a rapport with all the persons who are available over there. I used to have this kind of very friendly nature with my auditee clients. So there used to be various scenarios wherein I used to stay up till late with all these auditees, and none of them used to crib about the same thing, that sir, you are keeping us late. Why? No. Develop such kind of camaraderie with those people, because you need to get your answers straight. So you need to be very friendly with all those people. Ensure that they are pretty much comfortable with you disclosing all the credentials and details which are actually required for your audit. Not because you will be using it for your personal purposes, but you will be using it for your audit purposes, in order to ensure that you provide something essentially required thing to the management in your report. So that will be extremely useful for them. So build that kind of great camaraderie, great kind of positive and friendly image with the people around, and people will love you accordingly. And that's just not a tip as an auditor to you, that's a tip for your life. It's always the relationships that are extremely useful for your entire life. Relationships are going to be your bread and butter. So always remember that in order to ensure strong and an empowered kind of relationship with any of the person, you have to be down to earth. You need to be humble enough. Don't be aggressive. Don't be hostile. So that's going to be the first thing for you. So that with this stage 1 gets completed. The next thing will be the stage 2. That is the conduct of audit stage basically. So during this particular time, you need to take care of 4 major aspects. One is interpersonal relationship. Second is team spirit. Third is pre-report discussions. And finally, acknowledgement of the auditee's role. So by interpersonal relationship, management auditors must develop and maintain good relations with auditees to gain information and to ensure the corrective action on audit findings. That is what I just briefed you of. So that's going to happen right from the preliminary stage till the conclusion as well. Next will be the team spirit. So if team spirit is basically developed, no, the auditors and the auditees strive to achieve a common kind of goals. Both will be working for the improvement and betterment of their organization. Proposed recommendations are discussed with the auditee, and any modifications mutually agreed upon are incorporated. So that's what we call as team spirit. Next will be the pre-report discussions. So the auditor's reports have better accessibility if in case improvements suggested are discussed with those who have to implement them. You find out some kind of observation for the betterment of the management and their company. So you need to discuss the same with employees, executives and management before you pen down the same points in your audit report. Why? Because that's going to help them up while providing some requisite kind of suggestions so that they can implement them for the best of their organization. The auditee should be made to feel that they have participated in the recommendations made for improvements. You need to appreciate their role in you getting the perfect observations. It is all because of them that you have been able to provide them some kind of good observations. Had it been the case, they wouldn't have been there. Definitely, your work wouldn't have been appreciated at all, because it's because of them that you get some kind of audit working. So believe me guys, you need to acknowledge them up, and acknowledging anybody is a very good thing in life. So this will ensure that the coordinated efforts and suggestions for improvement on the auditor's recommendations are provided on a timely basis. Lastly, acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of auditor's role. A oral or written kind of appreciation for the auditee's achievements with respect to their any of the providing for you the guidelines or providing you the observations or requisite documentation basically encourages the auditees to develop a friendly attitude towards the auditor, and they look forward towards your guidance in a more receptive fashion. So that's the stage 2, which is extremely important and crucial for any of the audit. Lastly, we'll move to stage 3, that is the conclusion and reporting stage. So this will include constructive criticism. So guys, the auditor should concentrate only and only on constructive criticism. The auditee shall be convinced that the auditor's role is to be helpful and not only to find fault. So you need to provide them some constructive criticism kind of observations. Don't force them up to take care of some insignificant kind of observations of yours. So always provide them some significant thing with which they can constructively criticize their working style, and they can appreciate your availability in order to ensure that you have actually provided them something of useful. So next will be the effective reporting tone. So an auditor has to make a very concentrated kind of effort to convey effectively his role by adopting a very friendly but firm tone in his report. It is always possible to disagree without being disagreeable, to criticize without being critical. Remember that. So I'll repeat, it is always possible to disagree without being disagreeable, to criticize without being critical, and each and everything can happen with a very good kind of friendly and firm tone. Believe me guys, each and everything. I can relate to this point with the help of our PM of the nation, Mr. Narendra Modi. He puts forward each and every point. Maybe most of the people are going to find it out, okay, this man is very aggressive in his tone, but believe me, he is friendly enough, he is firm enough in his point. And once you set that kind of tone in your voice, in your report, no, definitely people are going to encourage and appreciate it. May not be today, but definitely tomorrow. So it has to be taken care of. The report should concentrate on the areas which need improvement rather than merely listing some inefficient and some kind of deficiencies. So it has to be taken care of. So that is the stage 3, conclusion and reporting stage. So guys, that was all about this question, which was asked thrice during respective CA final papers: stage 1 preliminary stage, stage 2 and stage 3 conduct, and finally the conclusion. I hope you got the complete clarity and each and everything has been like sorted out with you. So get that straight, revise your concepts time and again, because it's a very conceptual kind of a thing. It's not a theoretical subject. If in case you do it, your audit practically, it's an art. It's not just an audit, believe me. Let's move to our next question. So guys, this question was asked in CA final examination for November 2003 and November 2011. You are the internal auditor of JJ Manufacturing Limited. The managing director has asked you to inquire into the cause of abnormal wastage of raw materials during the month of April. The wastage percentages for the last few months are January 1.2%, Feb 1.1%, March 1.3%, and April 3.6%. How will you proceed to carry out over your assignment? So guys, you can simply see in the data which has been provided to you that the wastage percentages for 3 months, Jan, Feb and March, were pretty close by, pretty much common, 1.2, 1.1 and 1.3. But in case of April, that has grown up to like 3 times. That's almost 3.6 as compared to March, Feb and January. So as an auditor, you should proceed with the following steps. First of all, take into account all the general happenings, general kind of observations revolving that particular assignment. So procure a list of raw materials, first of all, showing the names and detailed characteristics of each kind of raw material which is being used in that company. So list of raw material is essential to get the wastage percentages and wastage observations. Inquire then whether there is any chance which will affect the material wastage. For example, changes in some sources of supply of raw material, methods or process, operating conditions of machines, labor force. So are there any possible chances which are going to affect some kind of material wastage? Ask them up. Ask and inquire the management in that case. Third, inquire whether any new production line was taken up during that month in respect of some standard input and output ratio which is still yet to be set up. There might be a case then that some new product was introduced and that was the first time which was being done. So in order to ensure that that new product is being launched, the wastage percentage increased considerably. That could be a chance, right? So you need to inquire that whether some kind of new production line got started in that case, because in my one of the audit I actually faced the same kind of thing. The wastage was being done at like completely 10 times more than that. So we were actually like fascinated about this scenario as to why the wastage percentage grew so much. And once we had the discussion with the management, we got to know that a new product was basically introduced. And since that was a maiden time that product was introduced, so wastage percentage grew considerably. So had it been the case, we wouldn't have discussed now the same thing which I was telling you in the like last question. So had it been the case, we wouldn't have discussed about the same thing. We would have reported the same in our report, which wouldn't have been good during our closing meeting. So it has to be taken care of that you discuss the matters with management and executives, because then only you will get the fair picture of your audit query. So response and recommendations comes only while you have a discussion, and then only you will be able to get the perfect kind of observation for your report. So that should be considered into general way. Next will be about the wastage figures. So guys, obtain a standard consumption figure. What's the standard consumption figure which has been like recorded in one of the SOPs or some other areas from the management, and ascertain then the basis of computation of the normal wastage figures. Then finally examine whether on the basis of the adopted basis for wastage calculation for the month of April is same as the adopted kind of wastage for all the 3 months, or has there been some kind of changes in that kind of basis which was being adopted. See the breakup of normal wastage. See the transit, storage, handling, processing, all these things. There you will get an idea whether the wastage was actually on the standard consumption basis or it has actually grew somewhat. And finally obtain a statement about the breakup of wastage figures for 4 months under the review and compare the results for analysis for each of the 4 months. So then you'll be able to correlate with the normal consumption, standard consumption, and finally the actual consumption which has being done. Next, move to third point, that is consumption records. So examine some of the records in order to find out the material variances and deviations, like purchases of various lots. Identify each lot with their actual material consumption, ascertain whether it has been like actual kind of wastage figures or not. So consumption records need to be checked in that case. And finally move to abnormal process loss. So that will include 4 aspects: material quality, machine utilization, inspection, odd lot consumption, previous period comparison. So these are the major 5 things which needs to be taken care of in order to check whether it was abnormal kind of process loss or not. In material quality, you'll examine an inspection, the testing reports in order to find out if the raw material purchased are of poor quality or substandard quality. This will be the most useful thing, because if it is possible to identify the wastage out of it, a lot will be like saved on your part. Had it been the company wouldn't have purchased that kind of substandard or poor quality product. So material quality is essential to note whether the wastage has occurred in a actual manner or it was done intentionally by purchasing substandard quality or poor quality product. Next will be the machine utilization. Check out the records, and there you'll get to know whether the machine breakdown, power failure, these kind of things were happening regularly on the basis in that company. These will result in a loss of material and process as well. So check the machine utilization statements. Third will be the inspection. So a high rate of rejection in the finished lots may also be responsible for the abnormal wastage. Inspection should be done, and examination should be done about those inspection reports for the inspection carried out on the completion of each stage of work and process. Inspection is a core thing which needs to be done. Check out that inspection register. the person who was taking care of inspection, the quality, whether he was able to do it in a right sense or not. Then comes the odd lot consumption. So it is possible that the wastage may have occurred because of a particular kind of lot out of which issues were made in April was lying in some store for a long time, leading to deterioration of quality, and because of that changes of weather which may have lead to such kind of deterioration. So you need to check out that odd lot consumption. It might be a case that the same material would have been like dispatched from the factory, but it went into some kind of warehouse. There it was kept for a long period of time, and due to change in weather, due to pilferage issues or embezzlement or something else, that ruined it completely, and the product got deteriorated and it led to the wastage in it. So you need to check that as well. And finally, move into the previous period comparison. Compare the wastage figures of April this year with that of April last year. That might be possible that the company during a period of like let's say April usually produces more by providing some kind of higher discount to people. So if the company is actually producing more or introducing some kind of new products every year on April, definitely the wastage figures will go up in that case. So you need to check with previous period comparison as well. So these are some of the tips which are which I am providing you on the basis of my practical audit exposure, which I have seen in my during my audits. So if you'll be like applying all these things in your particular audits, or if you'll be like applying these things in your audit methodology, wherein you'll be studying about audit, this will surely help you out accordingly. So these are the ways. And finally, this particular question will be concluded with abnormal storage and handling loss. So this abnormal storage and handling cost can happen due to many of the things. Due to one thing, which is write-off on account of reconciliation of physical and book stocks. In case of periodical physical stock taking, usually write-offs will be reflected only in the month of in which reconciliation takes place. So there might be a case that you won't get the correct kind of picture in the right kind of month. Might be a possibility that the wastage percentages would have been like equally divided in these 4 months. However, reconciliation was done primarily in April only, so that affected the month wastage of April itself. So that's one thing. Plus, this can happen due to accidental theft, fire losses in storage. That might be a possibility that fire broke out in that organization, or some kind of accident did happen, theft got happened. So an auditor basically needs to examine all such possibilities also. So guys, this was the question that was asked in CA final examination for November 2003 and November 2011. So I just briefed you about entire picture and how you should move with your audit while you write any of the answer in the answer sheet. So these are the 5 basic parameters on that: general awareness of the wastage things, wastage figures, then consumption records, abnormal process loss, and finally the abnormal storage and handling cost. So I just hope you got the complete clarity with the same. Perfect guys, let's move to our next thing. So guys, the last question of this presentation. You are appointed as a management auditor of a large engineering company suffering from a working capital crunch. Discuss the action plan which you would recommend to their management for overcoming their problem. This question was asked in CA final examination for November 2004. So guys, the company is facing some kind of working capital crunch and you have been like appointed as an auditor over there. What are the plans, action plan that you are going to suggest them up? So don't worry guys, I am definitely not going to leave your hand in any way around. So I'll help you out with the same kind of suggestions. So guys, first of all, an adequate kind of working capital is immensely required for liquidity and smooth operations for any of the company. And to ensure that adequate flow of working capital to the concern is like going ahead for each and every time, we need to suggest them some kind of good action plan. 1. Working capital estimation. The company should prepare a statement of its projected working capital requirements. First of all, they should be based on some kind of functional budgets such as sales, productions, expenses, capital expenditure, master budget, so, which will be like basically consisting of the projected balance sheet items. So working capital estimation is immensely required in order to ensure that a company doesn't run for any of the working capital crunch. So you need to first estimate the kind of working capital that will be required in your company. Next will be the cash budget. So month-wise cash budgets showing the inflows and outflows of cash should be prepared. This will highlight the pattern of cash movements and the time of cash shortage or surplus. In case of cash shortage, the company may arrange for working capital facility with its bankers, and alternatively, the company may reschedule its non-recurring payments such as taxes, interest, capital expenditure to smoothen the cash position. So, cash budget is extremely necessary for any of the company. Next will be the investment management. So the idle funds of the company should be invested in some short-term marketable securities such as commercial paper, certificate of deposits, some kind of negotiable instruments. So for this purpose, the company should forecast its cash requirements during a period and then park its surplus funds in the suitable investments. All these investments which I just told you of, commercial paper, certificate of deposits, these should be used judiciously by the company, such as that the maturity time of these investments and instruments coincides with the company's need for payments. Suppose I, as a company, need to pay my creditors after a period of 3 months, but now I am having some kind of extra cash in my hand. What should I do? I should invest my funds in such a manner that just before that liability of mine gets due after a period of 3 months, I'll be getting my money back in my hands with some kind of increased investment. I'll be investing the same amount with 90 days commercial paper or certificate of deposits, and after 90 days I'll get the amount along with my investment along with that interest, and then I'll be like able to meet out the requirements of paying for that obligation of my creditors. So investment management is very much important. One needs to have that kind of sense of how to invest the resources accordingly. The next thing would be the fund flow analysis. So the company should prepare a fund flow analysis distinguishing between the long-term and short-term sources and their applications. The company's working capital financing policy basically will be brought to light by such kind of analysis. And as a very kind of general rule, the long-term resources should be matched with long-term applications. Short-term sources should be matched with short-term applications. By fund flow, guys, I simply mean if you need to obtain some kind of long-term financing from some of the things, and if you are financing your long-term requirements out of it, that's certainly not of any harm. Supposedly you ask a banker to provide you a loan of rupees 5 crore and you need to finance your fixed asset out of the same. That's a very good thing that can be done. But if I'll suggest you that you ask and go for a banker for a short-term loan of 5 crore and out of the same you finance your long-term assets out of it, definitely it's going to create a big mess for you once that loan period will come to an end. Why? Because now you need to repay that loan, and is that actually feasible for you to repay that same loan after disbursing or selling off your fixed asset out of the same? Absolutely not. So fund flow analysis is basically going to help you up in understanding that short-term requirements should be met out of short-term funds and long-term requirements should be met out of long-term should be met out of long-term and short-term out of short-term. So that's going to be a best thing for you. So fund flow analysis is a very good kind of an action plan which is suggested over here. Next will be the stock management. So control over inventory should be maintained strictly, since the stock holding may go up due to mismatch between the supplies of material and unplanned allotment of control material. So for effective kind of effective control, stock levels and EOQ should be laid down and adhered to. So stock management is essentially required. Next will be the WIP analysis. So minimum WIP, that is work in progress, should be maintained by ensuring that no bottlenecks develop at the last stage during the production process. The company should be able to identify free operations and bottleneck operations and create the additional facilities in the latter accordingly. So this WIP analysis is extremely important as an action plan which is being suggested over here. Again, then there is JIT. JIT basically means just in time. So just in time basically is a philosophy that as soon as you'll be requiring your goods, you'll be asking the supplier to provide you them. So it's more like you required 500 tons of petrol. Okay, So you won't be carrying or storing that 500 ton. You'll be simply going with an option wherein once you'll require the same, you'll definitely give a call to the dealer, and the dealer is going to provide you the same petrol in just in time as and when the same is being required. So this philosophy basically enables a company to reduce the processing time, the storage cost, and related other costs like handling and other stuff. So the company should match its purchase lead time, process cycle, and delivery schedules properly to ensure that unnecessary stock holdings are avoided. And this is the best example. Like you'll be requiring something, go ahead and place the order and get the same within just in time. So that's the JIT analysis. Next will be the credit management. So the company should lay down a proper kind of policy for evaluating customers, determining the credit period, and offering the discounts for early payment. So credit management extremely necessary. Have you guys like ever pondered as to why your bankers usually call you up, the customer care of your bank usually calls you up for any of the payment, and they ask you up, okay sir, if you in case you provide us the payment well before time, maybe the same is being paid in those bankers provide you some kind of benefit in terms of early payment. So that is why it is being recommended to have the credit management in your company, because that's going to basically lay down some kind of procedures with respect to evaluating their customers and the kind of offering of the discount being made on the early payment. So that's credit management, which is essentially required. Next will be the collections management. So a company should ensure that prompt follow up with the debtors will happen on time in respect of the bills which are pending for the collection. The risk of bad debts and unnecessary delay in collection of receivables should be reduced and avoided. Banking arrangements for outstation check collection will help in reducing the collection float. So these are the things which are basically going to hamper you. So have you pondered about this thing that many of the BPOs and KPOs which are working in this sector are into collections management, and they usually charge a very hefty fees. Why? Because those BPOs and KPOs are appointed as a third party agents. So when once the bank's customer care center is like unable to fulfill the collection, then in that case these third party agencies come into the picture, and they have a very good kind of a collection management over there in their premises. So that's why they charge such a hefty commissions over their collections. So this is extremely important as far as the action plan is concerned. Next will be the creditors management. So the company should reassess its payment policy from time to time. The interest cost of paying early should be matched with the discounts received. So that's what we call as creditors management. And finally, liaising with the bankers. So by liaising with the bankers, I simply mean negotiating, communicating, and interacting with the bankers accordingly from time to time. So to obtain the timely support from banks, a good amount of pre-planning and follow-up action is necessary. Returns and application forms should be submitted in time so that review of the case may be made within the least possible time, and the working capital requirements be finalized and sanctioned at the appropriate time. So that's what we call as liaising with the bankers. So this was the action plan which I suggest. Just note down and jot down these points because it's going to be very handy for you. I just provide bullet wise presentation solely for the reason that you need to know this thing straight in your mind, that our institute basically like encourages this bullet points and to the point conceptual things. So working capital estimation, cash budget, investment management, fund flow analysis, stock management, WIP analysis, GIT analysis, credit management, collection management, creditors management, and finally liaising with the bankers. So this is what we suggest as the action plan to this client of ours. This is what you recommend. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave your hand. Don't worry, you are in the safe hand. Perfect, guys. With this, we came to an end. Our chapter's half part, that is management audit, came to an end with all the questions which have been like asked in CA final examination in previous attempts. In the next presentation, I'll be discussing with you about operational audit. So what kind of what does operational audit means, and what are the different questions which have been like asked in CA final examinations to provide you the clarity as to what is expected out of you from it. I'll be concluding my video with a dose of motivation, and that will be: great people are created by great mistakes that are learned from, not from the great successes that are gloated upon. Elmer Clark was the person who suggested this quote and mentioned it. So obviously, a person grows not by the kind of success he enjoys. A person grows by the kind of mistakes that he does in his or her respective life and learn from it. So great people usually are made only from those mistakes. So if you haven't, it was told by one of the great philosopher, I guess Albert Einstein was the person who told it up. Okay, he, if you haven't made mistakes in your life, that means you haven't grown. So you need to make mistakes in order to grow in your life. That has to be done in such a manner. So don't fear making mistakes. Fear not learning by doing those mistakes. So you need to make mistakes and learn from them. So, and genius is a person who learns from the mistake of others. So if you are a genius, you can simply learn from the mistake of others. But if you are intelligent enough, still you can manage from your own mistakes as well. So don't worry about the same. But you need to keep growing. In order to keep growing, you need to make mistakes and then learn from them. So great people are created by great mistakes that are learned from, and not from the great successes that are gloated upon. Perfect, guys. With this, I'll say the thank you on behalf of the Edupedia world. Keep interacting via questions, queries in YouTube comment boxes. We love to solve your queries, grievances